Good morning everyone and welcome. In the last video we said that in this lesson and in the next one we will go deeper in the techniques, but always the easiest way. We will make things easy also for the newbies. There are three basics that you must know, three basic things you must know to take good pictures. These things are ISO, speed, and aperture. ISO is the sensitivity of the film or the sensor. I want to point out one thing, that I can say film or a sensor, but I mean the same exact thing, so don't get confused. I can use both of them. ISO is the sensitivity of a sensor or a film, its ability to capture the light. Speed is how long a shutter stays open, allowing the lights to get into the camera. However, this word is conceptually wrong. I don't know why they use speed, because you use speed for measure speed, something like kilometers per hour or meters per second, miles, knots. In fact, usually on the speed dial on the camera, there are two values. There are T and B, which stand for time and bulb, and they are used to measure longer exposure, usually over 30 seconds. The third value is aperture. Aperture is related to the lens, and it basically it is how wide or how narrow and the blades in the lens are open or closed to allow the lights to get into the camera. In the old cameras, in the film cameras, usually you have the ISO and shutter speed controls on the camera and the aperture on the lens. Like on this Pentax here, this is the film camera we saw in one of the early, in the first videos. We have the ISO here in this little window. Then we have the shutter speed here. This goes from B bulb to 1,000th of a second, and we have the aperture here on the lens. Actually, this is a fast lens. It goes from 1.4 to f16, and we can see these values better in this image. This is a photographic triangle. Excuse me. And you see in red the three values, the three settings: ISO, speed, and aperture, each with its own values. ISO here goes from 50 to 6400. However, on the digital cameras, this value goes way higher than that. And ISO, as I said, is how the film captures the light, is the sensitivity. So the lower the ISO, the low light is captured by the film. So you need longer shutter speed or wider aperture. While the higher ISO, they capture a lot of light. It's like a tap with the water flowing in a glass. The higher ISO capture much more light, so you can use fast shutter speed or closer aperture. With the low ISO, you obtain a more detailed image, a sharper image, a more contrasted image. While with the high ISO, the result is softer, actually. It's less detailed, mellower image. In fact, usually the low ISO is used for panorama views, also street photography. While with a higher ISO, you can use fast shutter speed. So you can use that in situation when there is a moving subject or sport photography, wildlife, also astrophotography. The problem is that the higher the ISO, the less detailed the image, the photo. Softer and it's kind not blurred but not sharp nor detailed, the image. So it's always it's up to you which kind of ISO to use, but the important is that you have to know the difference between them. Then we go to the speed, and the speed, as you can see here in the image, it goes from bulb T time and then up to 1/4000th of a second. These values are in fractions of a second. They are very fast. The time, as I said earlier, time or bulb is used usually when you have to keep the shutter open over 30 seconds or longer, or even longer time, something like for astrophotography or architecture, something like that. While the fast shutter speed are good when for sport like motorsport, or when you need when there is fast action. Obviously the two have a different influence on the final result, because the low speed or high speed, it changes the result. Like, for example, the depth of field. With a fast shutter speed, you have a narrower depth of field, while with the low shutter speed, you will have almost everything in focus. The third is the aperture, and these values are in f2, f8, f22. Excuse me. Here in the image, the aperture goes from 2 to f22, but this is the one of the three settings that gets you confused, because logically you think, okay, f22 is bigger than f2, so I will have more light coming into the camera, while in practice is the opposite. f22 is much smaller than f2. Just keep in mind that you have to reason on the opposite with these values. These values are strictly related to each other. In fact, here we are on the law of reciprocity. It means that if you increase any of these values, you have to decrease the other in accordance. If not, you will have a wrong picture, that the photo will be overexposed or underexposed. And basically, the law of reciprocity is how the light gets on the film. or on the sensor. The problem is that the back of the lens is round, while the film and the sensor are rectangular or square, it depends. So you will have a circle of light impressing a square, and so we'll see this in the next image, that is a schematics of the lens. You can see the light getting through it, through the focal point. The focal point basically is the center of the lens, and to the focal plane, which can be the sensor or the film. In this image, we can see that the travel that the light does, it's shorter, as we can see here, towards the center of the lens than towards the edges, on the focal plane. So the light needs less time to get towards the center of the focal plane than towards the edges. So this causes what is called vignetting, that we can see in this other image. You can see here that the center of the image is correctly exposed, while the edges are darker. This is because the light gets towards the center, like when you open the tap and the water flows in the glass, it gets in the center of the glass first and then to the edges. This is a problem especially with short lens like a wide angle. Since they have a wide angle of view, they need more time for the lights to get to the edges. This can be solved changing each of the three values that we saw in the photographic triangle, usually the speed or the aperture. The faster the speed, the faster the lights that will get in the center of the focal plane. Changing the speed, it affects the photo in different ways. Usually you use fast speed to freeze the image or capture moving subject, and slow shutter speed to give the impression of the motion. As we can see in this picture, the first one, you see the train stop on the bridge, but actually the train is moving. This image is being taken with a fast shutter speed, like 1/500th of a second, and you can see the train seems to be stopped. It doesn't give any impression of moving. While in this other picture, there's another train, but you clearly see that it's running. And this is why the photo has been taken with a slow shutter speed, something like 1/64th of a second. Another situation is when you take a photo of the water and you want to give the impression of the motion of the water, and you use a slow shutter speed, while using a fast shutter speed you can freeze a drop falling in the glass. These three values are the basics you have to know, and knowing this allows you to take a picture correctly, in the correct way. So in the next video we will see the other value that you need to take a good photograph, that it's the light. Well, until then, I hope you enjoyed this one, and thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!